they don't need to be ashamed of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually when I bring up the fact that everybody has areas that they can improve.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them really show up in school, some of
Mm-hmm.
them don't.
Welcome back to the Different Ability podcast and Motivation Moment. And I am so excited for today's guest. Why? Well, because this person knows maybe too much about me and has known me for many, many years. It is my teacher from high school, Gina Dahl, which still feels weird to say. I always call her Mrs. Dahl, but that's fine. I'm going to get over it. I'm a grown up. Okay. So, welcome, Gina, to the Different Ability podcast and Motivation Moment. I am so excited for people to hear what it was like to deal with me. And of course, learn about you.
Oh, yes.
Well,
Well,
welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. And I want to kick this off right away. So, I did give a little intro. That's how I know you, is obviously you were a big part of my life in high school. You were not my teacher, though, in middle school, correct? At that
no.
time? It was high school. Okay. I didn't think so. So, all right. I want to learn a little bit about you. Do you have a story to share of who were you when you grew up? How were you as a kid? And then we'll dig into how we've done things in the past and what you're doing now.
Okay. So basically, I've I'll tell a story about when I was in elementary school myself to start out with, and I was one of the kids that was in the low reading group. Now, everybody knows that there's reading groups, and yes, you pick a fun name and all that stuff, and we try to do as much as we can to make it so it's not obvious, but I was very, very sure that I was in the low group, and I was. So I struggled with reading myself, and then I went to a different school when I turned or was starting seventh grade. And basically, I started to feel a little bit better about myself and started to learn how to read.
Yeah.
And I found a book that I liked to read, and that just was like, oh, books aren't awful, and I like to read. And so basically, then I decided from about that time on that I wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to be an elementary teacher, and I knew that I wanted to teach upper elementary, not the lower elementary.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'd have told me that I was going to be teaching special ed in high school, I would have told you were crazy, because that was not on my radar. When I went to school, I did get my um, bachelor's degree in special or in elementary education, and then when I came back, I had taken pretty much a double major. So I had, but I didn't do student teaching with special ed or anything. So when I came back and found out that there was elementary teachers galore, and it was really hard to find a teacher or teaching um, position, I found out that I liked working with special ed students just as well with Special Olympics and stuff like that. So worked at a group home, got even more comfortable with how to talk with and interact with kids with severe disabilities. And then my first job was teaching students with severe disabilities. And basically, I had 4 students, and they were in wheelchairs. So I had 2 aides and a student helper that help us out. But anyways, then I did some student teaching on the job for that position and got uh, 1 license. And then the next year, those kids were all graduated except for one. So then I got a new one and new position, sorry. And the new position I got after that was with learning disabilities. And basically, I learned how to um, work with all kinds of different abilities. And from that, I moved to a different school, which is Westby.
Yes.
and went and got my master's degree. And I read some different books and stuff through that to get my master's. And one of them really hit home with me. And I was like, I need to like figure out my kids, like what they can do and what is their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and help them use their strengths to overcome their weaknesses.
Yes.
Because what I've told a lot of the kids throughout my teaching career is everybody has things that they do well, and yours might not show up in the classroom. It might be that you can fix a lawnmower better than anybody else and whatever, and you just need to know that that's who you are. So that's kind of my journey. And then after I was in high school for a while, and then I moved down to the middle school, and that's where I'm teaching right now.
Awesome. I did not know that that's where how you started. I guess I never learned that about you when we were in school. I didn't know you started in wanting to be elementary ed, and then that is so cool. And I think it also helps a lot, at least we've talked about this before, but I think it helps a lot that you yourself did struggle as well. So you could relate to me when I was having a tough time, and you would be like, hey, this worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Or, hey, let's try this. And I think that's really awesome. And I had no idea. So thank you for sharing that. And so you went for your master's. I don't remember this. So how long were you at Westby before I came into your class? Do you remember?
Oh goodness, you're asking me. I really don't do well with remembering time frames.
Either.
But I do know that. Let's see. Um, Trying to think of when you were in school.
So I graduated in 2007. That's why I graduated
Okay.
high school.
So let's see. I think were the third or fourth
Yes. Okay.
group of kids that I had.
I was gonna
No,
say I
it
knew
had to
it
have
was
been like the fourth or something like
yeah.
that, because I had my master's degree before I had you, because I
Yep.
taught the class with you.
Yes. I do
So
know that for a fact. Yes.
yeah, so yeah.
Yes. I want to share a story just because I have you here and I get to like say it. Like, 'cause I have a lot of stories to share about you and I in high school, but I have to share this and then tell me what you feel about this when I tell you the story. I know you know it, but I talk with people, and that's what's so important about learning about yourself. And I'm going to have Gina on again. We're going to talk specifically about IEP sometime and why it's so important. But I want to touch on it because I am so grateful that you like instilled some confidence even really early on, because this was in would have been sophomore year, I believe. And I was going into a math class and I was supposed to take a test. And I literally remember where I was standing. Like I could show you in school where I was standing when all this happened. And I remember going into the class and it was test time. It was the first time with this teacher. It was the first time I ever had to take a test. And so I walked up and said, hey, I need to go up to the other special classroom or whatever it was called back then. I don't even remember. I got to go to the other classroom with Mrs. Dahl to take the test. And the teacher, he knew me really well and goes, no, you don't. And I'm like, yes, I do. And he's like, no, sit down and take the test. And I'm like, but no, like I have a disability. I have a learning disability. I have to leave the classroom to take the test. And I remember in the back of my mind, you told me, and it wasn't a ton that you told me. I just remember you saying, if someone's telling you you can't do it and you feel like something's uncomfortable or wrong, leave and come find me. I remember you like being like, just leave. And so I remember, I can't believe I didn't get in more trouble for this. I remember being like, you're wrong. And I left. I walked out of the classroom without anything and I came and found you. And I wasn't there for it. But you told me you went down and told that teacher that Katie has a learning disability. And if you do not let her leave the classroom, it is against the law. And you went through this whole like spiel about it. And I never had an issue ever again. I like remember that. But then you came back. That's the cool part. This is what I love about you is that you came back. I took the test, did everything, and me and the other teacher were fine. But the thing I want to say before I go on is that the reason he didn't believe me is because honestly, my disability isn't very severe. And of course, it's a learning disability. It's hidden. You can't tell, right? I look, quote, normal. And so they're like, Katie, you're just joking around. Quit pulling my button, like, or pushing my buttons and pulling my chain. Like, that's what he was thinking. And I mean, it was wrong, but you came back. What I really loved about it is you came back and you actually made it a teaching moment. You're like, this is why it's important to know what your rights are. This is why it's important to know that you can do this. And it helped me build my confidence to be able to tell some of these teachers, because I mean, they should know, by the way. They really should have known. But hey, things happen, things get busy and crazy, and you're just like, kid, sit down and take your test. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure lots of kids try to get out of testing. And I just really appreciated that from you, because I truly remember exactly where I was sitting, where I was standing in front of them. When I remember walking down the hallway, like, also like, is he gonna come after me? And then going up and finding you in your room, and you're like, stay here. And you went out of the room and came back, and you're like, we're good. Here's your test. Let's go. And then I took the test, of course. And then we sat down and had a conversation about it. I really appreciate that about you. And I don't know if you remember that specific scenario, but I just appreciate it. So
Yep. I do remember that one. I don't, if it's a little foggy, but I do remember it when you brought it up, and that we definitely had some discussions. I've been pretty good with, when I'm talking with teachers, I try to, not make it bad or anything,
yeah.
but just to, again, educate. And, hey, if a student is saying they need to leave and come to my classroom, they are okay to leave at any point in time.
Yep.
That's what you got to do. And
Yes.
so, and I still, even with my middle school students, have, said, if you need something, come find me, do this, because I want them to have a voice and them to realize that they can speak up for themselves.
Yeah, and that's what's so awesome. And I'm so glad you were doing what you do, because it did give me the confidence. Now, you didn't coach me for years and years. You just said you have your rights. And this was even before we took that class with you. Like, you were just like, this is your rights. And we really highly suggest that you leave the classroom and let's take the test here. And you made it comfortable. I never felt stupid leaving your class, but it did take time. And I don't like using that word. That word's terrible. But like, I know I felt that way the first time in middle school when I had to leave the class. I felt like I was dumb. I felt like I was stupid. Something was wrong. But I really appreciated you in high school coaching and educating us as well, and encouraging all of us that you just learn different. You just do things differently. And this is how you find your strengths and your areas of improvement, and how you can, do better and all that stuff. And I think that every kid should hear that, first of all, not even if you're in a different classroom, but having that encouragement. And I just really appreciate you standing up for me in that situation. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, though. I'm just going to say that. Like, I would have loved to be like listening in, but you're very kind, and you're just like, no, this is against the law. You need to let her leave the classroom. And I'd never had a problem like that ever again, because I knew that I could stand up for myself and be able to, tell them, hey, this is what I need. I think that really helped me even bring that through into college as well, which is so awesome. So awesome. Anyways, is there anything that you can remember? I just want it for 2 seconds, and you can totally tell something funny if you have something funny. But I have so many stories and remembering things of like in your class and the things you taught me and all of these things. How was Katie? And you don't have to say this, you don't have to be like nice about it just because it's my podcast. How was Katie in the classroom teaching? Was I kind of feisty? Was I quiet? What? Well, let's be real. I was not quiet,
Actually,
but
well, actually, you were kind of a little bit of both of those. There were times where you were quiet and just do, when you knew what you needed to do, and you would do it. And you were willing to. Now, I have to give this disclaimer too. I do know Katie's parents and her grandparents and those kinds of things as well. Not immensely well, but like her grandpa and my grandpa were like farming buddies. So I kind of knew of the family and the fact that they could be a little stubborn sometimes.
I'm totally having my, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know my grandpa. And you said was it your grandpa or your dad or who?
My grandpa.
My grandpa and your grandpa were like farming friends?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like my grandpa Fortune?
Yeah.
I'm totally going to call him after this. I need to talk to him about this. And you're right. I'm so glad you said this because that is a perfect way to put it. Very stubborn. We all very that you said it nicer, but we are very stubborn people. So yeah, sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
But anyway, so I kind of knew the background, but um, honestly, it was nice because you would actually tell me like, I don't understand this, just plain out like this way it is.
Yep.
And I actually kind of like that in a student because then I know, do you understand it or are you just being like stubborn and not wanting to do it? Or is it, and so you were one that would actually give me some insight, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then I could help fix it.
Yeah.
I do remember going into some of the upper level math classes and stuff like that. And people are like, well, why do you have to support? She's got a reading disability. Why would she need support in math?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, think about it. All of the terminology, all of the reading of the story problems and
Yep.
those kinds of things. And to be honest, I went to a private school that didn't have a real strong math in high school. And my college, I did really well in math. I was actually, the teacher took me and made me a tutor for some people that were struggling. So I was a special ed teacher before I was even a teacher.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I just lost my train of thought there.
About math, why you had to be in the classroom with me.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. So basically, I was in the higher level classes, one to help me so I could help you guys, but also then to help with the reading and doing those kinds of things too. So a lot of people kind of that aren't in the school setting don't get it. Like, why would anybody need help in math if they have a reading disability?
Right. And you're so right. I actually loved when you were, I remember you being in a lot of those classes with me when I did get into those upper level math classes, which I weirdly enough, and I still don't understand this, maybe we can talk about this later, but like I hated geometry. I don't know why I hated geometry. I should have liked it better, but I liked algebra better. And I liked algebra 2 and like pre whatever it was. I don't remember. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, pre-calc or whatever. I loved those. I think because there
Mhm.
was a lot more just rules with it, like this is this, and it was easy for me to understand. But I remember you being in a lot of those classes with me, and then after, and when I would go to the other room to get help and or just have a quiet space to do study halls and stuff. Um, I remember you being like, "Yeah, this is what we learned, Katie," because you were in there with me. You're like, no, they said this. And I'm like, oh, dang it, I forgot, or whatever. And we could work through it together, which was really helpful. And obviously, it wasn't just for me, there was other students too. But I remember you being in the classroom and I was like, yeah, if I have a question, I know she's going to know because she was here. So, which was really nice. I do want to know, because you know that and people know I've talked about this, that I did utilize my IEP pretty much to the fullest extent that I knew that I could. How do you feel about students that don't? And I don't mean how do you feel, I guess, what would be a message to a student that doesn't want to and doesn't think it's necessary? Like I remember you talking about these things to me and why it's necessary, because if you're utilizing, I'm going to like tee you up for this one, but you utilize certain things in high school that will help you for college or getting different services after school. But what would you say to students that just absolutely do not want to leave the classroom to get extra time on tests because they don't want to look silly or don't want to use their IEP?
Okay. So basically, when I talk to kids, because I've had several throughout my teaching career, um, that I tell them, okay, so you don't want to come out of the classroom and you don't want to look stupid. However, you don't have enough time to read through the test and do it well, so you're getting a bad grade. So are you looking stupid anyway?
Yeah.
And they would be like, well, no. I'm like, okay, so what do you, so you're just saying, well, I didn't study, so then they think that you're okay. Well, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I said, if you keep on doing this, do you think that you're going to have good enough grades to go on to college and be accepted and be able to do what you need to do? And that's when they start going, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I explained to them how colleges look at your transcripts and your grades, and that follows you kind of throughout. And um, I've also told them that they don't need to be ashamed of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually when I bring up the fact that everybody has areas that they can improve.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them really show up in school, some of
Mm-hmm.
them don't.
Yeah.
There are certain people that if you asked them what a spark plug is or where it is on a car, they wouldn't be able to tell you at all.
Mm-hmm.
They have no clue on anything like that. And yet that's never going to show up in a classroom
Yeah.
unless you're in shop class.
Yeah.
But if you have problems with reading, that's going to show up in every class.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, you're a person who just has that. I said, your time to shine will probably be after you get out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I said, the kids that are really, really good in school, you know, those kids, and I point out, you know, the kids in class that are the smart ones.
Yep.
And I say, this is their time. Basically, most of those kids are going to graduate from, we'll say college, because they'll probably go to college because they like school and they're good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But then their strength is gone, and basically they're at jobs and they'll be so at the jobs, and they're not going to necessarily be that great. So they have 12 years of school where they can shine. But people like Katie,
Mm-hmm.
who have great personality and great ideas and creativity, can keep using that through their jobs and keep growing and can succeed for the lifetime, which is like 40, 50, 60 years. So I
Yes.
tell them, would you rather have one that lasts for 12 years or one
Mm-hmm.
that lasts for 40 years?
I
And
love that you say that because I'm sorry, I just love that you say that because nothing against the other people that love school and are really book smart and all that stuff, but that also shows kids that, you know, you don't have to be book smart and smart in school to like have a wonderful life and be able to do what you're really good at and love to do. Because I mean, these people that do have learning disabilities and different abilities and regular, just actual physical disabilities, when they can find out the things that they're really good at and they can find the things that they're not so great at and they can work on and improve upon, that will help them like really create the life that they want after school. Like you said, like someone that's in shop class or knows that they're really good at finding spark plugs on a car. I'm not going to find a spark plug. Now, I know certain things about cars because that's how I grew up and I needed to. My dad was like, you need to learn how to weld at age 10, you know, things like that. But I also am, again, I'm dyslexic. I'm very hands on. And that's what you taught me as well. And I learned through school is that being able to take things and move them around so I can visually see them. And those are the things that, you know, kids need to hear about and that we all learn differently. Maybe I do math a little differently than someone else. Maybe I read a little differently. Maybe listening is better for me, which is 100% true. Listening is 100% better for me. But being able to educate those kids and like encourage them. And PS, I'm just throwing it out there. If there's anyone that like is pushing back you, let me talk to them because you just be like, well, fine, Katie's coming in and chat with you because I really believe in it and it's not going to hurt to utilize that. So is it still true? Maybe, I don't know, let me know because this goes in the same subject. When if you use it's different now because technology is so different, but let's say you use a computer a lot. This is dating me so much. I like if you use a computer a lot and everything, and there might be a better example, so please tell me if there is in school or you listen to books on tape or whatever it is. Oh my God, I really just dated myself. Um, if you use those in high school, it's going to help you get grants and different things into college if your college doesn't offer that because you use that to help you learn. Is that still correct? Does that still work that way?
Yeah, the basically, well, it's a little bit different in high school than it is in college.
Yep.
In high school, you have to have a free, appropriate public education.
Yep.
That's the three P's, so to speak. Um, but the basically what that means is if you need that in order to access what everybody else accesses, like the curriculum or whatever, then that doesn't mean that we need to buy you a $5,000 computer.
Yeah.
But what it might mean is that you could use an iPad to record a lesson
Yep.
because you couldn't take notes that fast.
Yes. Yes. And actually, speaking of notes, I know because of my different ability and being dyslexic and everything, and my IEP and my accommodations allowed me in college to actually have people take notes for me. Those people got paid, not by me. And again, that may be have changed. That may have changed. But I remember I had in art history specifically because it was so note heavy, and I went to Stout, so I'm really grateful that they allow, like, we had computers. They get, that was in our tuition. We had our own computers. We could take notes on computers. It was really a lot quicker for me. I was a lot faster typer. Uh, but I actually had a person take notes as well, and that person got paid, and I got their notes. And even sometimes some of them are so good, I'd sit down and we'd study together, which was so cool. But again, those are those accommodations. I mean, okay, so answer this then. So if I don't use my accommodations in high school, will they still transfer over if I take all my IEP stuff to college, or will it not?
So basically we, as we write the IEPs, we have to put in like what you are truly using.
Yes.
So if a student decides that they don't want to take tests in the classroom because they don't want to leave, one of the things that I usually will definitely do is say, okay, if you don't want to leave, are you okay just coming to my classroom straight from, don't even go to that classroom, just come straight to my classroom.
Yep.
Avoid that getting up and going out bit. That helps a ton of kids. And not a big deal. We get the test ahead of time. It's there. They just do it. It actually is nice because it gives them a little bit extra time because they don't have to walk from one classroom to the other during the time of the test.
Yep.
So, but if you choose not to use that, then the next IEP that I write, I don't put it in.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to take it, like say for the ACT, if you want to have that read to you, you can. And if you, but you have to have, I think, I don't know, you have to have at least one. The current IEP has to have it in, and it might have been like even the one before it also, because they don't want it to be written just like, oh, it's ACT year, let's put this in so that it's there. So they have to actually look back, I think, a year or two, see if it's something you've been using. But if it has been used throughout, then it is fine for you to continue to use that on the ACT or in college. If it hasn't been used, it's not to say that at college you couldn't, but it would have to kind of be proven again or shown through like testing or something that you actually do need it.
So moral of the story, utilize your IEP and your accommodations because it will help you through through high school, college, and even after. Like if I wanted to go take my CDL, like I don't, but if I did, isn't it like law that I have to get time and a half because I have all of that information from whenever?
Correct.
Yeah. So like that can go for anyone. So like even kids that are like, I'm not going to college. Well, okay. So and so, do you want to maybe drive a sweet semi someday and do bulldozing or something? Yeah. Okay. Well, do you want extra time on your test? Well, yeah. Well, then you got to use your IEP. So, okay, I did get off tangent on that. I didn't mean to talk too much about IEP, but because I do want to do a specific episode on that, but I love talking about it because it is so important and I did utilize it and I'm grateful that I did. And I also am grateful. I don't know if you remember these moments, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, of when I actually did a test on myself. And I know you were involved with it. There was for sure, yeah, just one test. It was a math test. I remember that too. And we okayed it with the teacher that I would take the test in the classroom because I wanted to see, like, okay, do I really need to leave the classroom? Like, how terrible am I at taking tests in a classroom? terrible. I took it, and then again, because it was a math test, it was easy to like just change the numbers around. It wasn't the same test or anything. And then I took it outside of the classroom with you, reading it to me or whatever, having extra time, just quiet time, whatever it was. And the grades were significantly different. And I tried very hard on both of them. And what I found for myself when I was in the class, I would get so anxiety ridden. I'd be looking down at the paper, doing my test, trying to be quiet, like paying attention. And then someone would get up because their test was done. And I'm like, I look down and I'm on page 1. And I remember just feeling like I was in so much stress that I didn't want to be the last one. And that was just terrifying to me. I remember that. And again, I when you said the thing about I actually usually didn't leave the class. Like I think after that situation, we did the same thing. Like just come up to the classroom. You know, you have a test that day, just come to my class and then we'll take the test. And I did that almost every time. And it was way easier. I just be like, oh, it's so and so period. I'm just gonna go up to Mrs. Dahl's class and get up there and get this test done, you know? And most of the time, I never used the time and a half ever because I had a quiet space and I could actually think about what I needed to do. And sometimes I'd even have the extra quiet space, like in that other room where I could read it out loud to myself and like just be able to get through it and remember the things I studied, you know. So you using your accommodations and your IEPs and we're going to get more into that because I really do. We talked about this already and why it's important for you to learn about your IEPs and be in the meetings. There's the little teaser for you. We're going to talk more about this because it is important and you brought that to my attention. So what are some
I have to say one thing here in that conversation.
Yep.
Basically, if there are teachers listening to this podcast or video, please think about how you do tests. If you can, just let the kids stay in their seats the entire time and hand it in right before they go out the door. Mm-hmm. Because that, even for the kid that doesn't have a disability, I'm sorry, but when people start getting done and you're not done, you just don't feel like you're very smart.
Yes.
It gives you anxiety. So if there's any teachers out there, think about how you're doing that.
I love that you say that, Gina, because I 100% said that on my podcast with a friend of mine that we were talking about testing. And we both said the same thing. Please, teachers, do something different in the classroom. Like, just don't let anyone get up. And if they get done early, great. Open up a book or something or whatever. Right. But like, I agree. Like it is, and it's not, yeah, you're right. It's not just for people that have disabilities. It is scary. And it's like, you look around and it's not to say anything bad about the people that are great at testing and get things done quickly. That's not a bad thing. It just, think about the rest of the people in the classroom. Just being able to have kids be able to just feel more comfortable taking a test in the classroom. That goes for everyone. I think that's such a great message that you brought that up for teachers just to hear, hey.
The other thing I would say is if you're that kid that's usually kind of the last one done, even if you don't have a disability, talk to the teacher and say, hey, can you let the kids like stay in their seats so that it doesn't get noisy and stuff? Because it's really distracting. Like it's okay for anybody to tell a teacher, hey, this isn't working for me.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Even if you are a kid who doesn't have a disability, but it's just it gets so loud or something, check and see. I know some teachers will let you go and sit out in the hallway. Mm-hmm. Whatever, do what you need to do so that you can succeed.
Oh, I love that. Advocate for yourself. Like, even if you don't have a disability, that's powerful. Like, talk to them. And again, remember, kids that are listening to this, hopefully, and teachers are humans. They are people, even though I have a hard time saying your first name. Maybe it's a respect thing. I don't know. You've just always been Mrs. Dahl to me. Nope. But every teacher's like that, by the way. I totally am like, hey, Mrs. Jokes. And I like say like, and they're like, I'm a person. You can say my name. It's so weird to me. But that you are people. And so you can have a conversation. It might be scary. It might not go the perfect way, but it is great practice for when you're in the real world and you have to have hard conversations and scary conversations. So, oh my gosh. Oh, we could talk all day. So what is a message? Because like I said, we're going to have you back on again because I think that there's so much more that we can talk about and get great information out there for people and kids and parents as well. Actually, yeah, that's what I want to do. Any message for you right now, even a simple one that you have for a parent that is maybe just found out their child has some type of disability or that is struggling with one of their kids that has a disability. Do you have just a message? I put you on the spot. I'm sorry,
No,
but do you have a
no,
message for them?
no. Whenever I hear this type of thing, I think of the first time that I taught the class that you talk about, the
Mm-hmm.
class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a student and I was doing like a pre-survey and a post survey to see what the kids thought about the class.
Mm-hmm.
And when I taught the kid about it, this one student said on the post, and I'm sorry, I'm getting like, I get choked up every time. He said, "You taught me that my life was not doomed
Oh my
because I had a
gosh.
disability."
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, okay, that's it. I'm teaching this class for the rest of my life.
Oh, I'm crying. Oh my God. That is so true. And this quote class we're talking about changed my life. I still have the book. I showed you the other day when we were chatting. That is so wonderful to hear from a kid, and that's a great message even for parents to hear. Like you get a diagnosis, in my eyes, that should be the best day of your life. Now you know what you can do and you can get the help you need to
Yep.
make sure your life isn't doomed, and no one's life is doomed. Like that's the message for me at least is, and I know my mom talks about it too, is, and I'm so grateful for the parents I have. I've been very, very blessed that have such wonderful parents that have always supported me and fought hard for
Yeah.
some things for me. You know, I mean, again, it's not just a fortune thing that they're stubborn. My mom, she is stubborn too. So I have it from both sides, but that is something that is really impactful. Like I have chills still that he or she is not doomed. And that is a really great thing for a kid to say, and then you knowing I'm never going to not teach this class ever again. Like you have to keep doing it. It was that impactful though. I don't keep things. I don't like a lot of things, and I
Mhm.
still have it, and I still look at it. And not for like, I mean, more it's like, oh my gosh, this is cool or whatever, but I still have it and it's important to me. There is nothing else that I've kept from high school except that. That is the one thing. And I kept it in college. I had it in my bookshelf in college. It's went with me everywhere. I still have that book that I learned about how I learn differently and what my rights are as a kid and an adult now. And we did so many cool exercises and really like hard things to think about. I remember writing to Congressman Ron Kind. I remember writing to a college. We wrote a letter to a college when I did my ACTs with you,
Yep.
and you read it to me. I remember getting a 21 ACT score, which isn't terrible, but it's not like super awesome and amazing to get into this college I wanted to get into. And one of the things I remember, this college, it required 2 years of Spanish. And I remember coming to being like, I didn't take Spanish. I don't even do English well. And like you said, it's fine. Let's sit down. Let's write a letter and include it with your ACT. And we did. And I got accepted to this very massive college with a 21 ACT score and my letter not having Spanish. That's a big deal. I remember I didn't go to that college. I mean, I feel bad, but I didn't go to the college. But I'm kind of glad I didn't. It was really, really big. I love Stout. We could talk about that all day too. Stout's a great school, but I just remember being like, wow, you taught me so much more than just here's some things. You taught me like ask for what you want. Tell them why you didn't take like Spanish. There's a reason. I wasn't lazy. I literally struggle with English. It makes zero sense for me to struggle through Spanish. I took
Right.
different electives to get through that. And I just think that shows so much. And there's so much gratitude towards you. I get to say this because you're on here now and it's like you can't leave. Ha ha ha. And I could be like, but I want to talk like teachers are amazing. And I mean, specifically, I think people are really realizing it now with this pandemic when I don't have kids, but I hear and just the things that you guys do just on a day-to-day normal years are incredible. And how you touch people's lives is a huge deal. So much gratitude and love to you, number one, you, because I really don't believe that I would truly be exactly where I am today without you, because you have changed my life. You've given me confidence to be able to, I'm going to cry, grow as a person. Yes, I had great parents. Yes, I had a great support system, but I also had you in my corner when I was in school. And you treated me like all the other kids. It's not like you did that, like Katie's the teacher's pet. No, you treat all those students that way. And you didn't treat me any different than anyone else. You like, I mean, I didn't feel like that you did. And you treat every student that way and you care about every student the way you cared about me. And I think that it's up to the student too to utilize that and be like, hey, I need extra help and talk to you about it. And that's why I don't believe in teachers' pets. I think every student should build a great relationship with their teachers because look at me. I'm 31 years old, almost 32, and I get to talk to you after how many years and connect and collaborate with you now, which is so great. And you've had me come in and speak before, which again, I will do it anytime for you all the time for the rest of my life. You tell me when, I will be there. And I think that is really impactful. And again, I guess my moral is teachers, they're humans and you're human, and build those relationships with those people because they really do more than not care. Maybe some
Right.
don't, but most, I would say 99% of the teachers I've ever met really truly care because they wouldn't be doing that job if they didn't, because it's a hard job. It's not
Right.
easy. So thank
Very
you.
true. That's very true.
And
We most teachers now. I will put the disclaimer that there are some teachers that we all know aren't
yeah,
in it for the right reason or whatever. But I would say that 99% of them are, and
yeah.
that we do really care. And I can say, except Katie here, and she can't get away from me, that she is someone that I have brought up as an example of a student with a disability that is successful, and that if you use the resources you have and the things that are out there for you, that you can do whatever it is that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that is, thank you for saying that. And but I really wouldn't be where I am without people like you in my life. And you are huge. I don't know. I mean, have you seen any other of my teachers on this podcast? Nope. So you're my you're my first one that's here, but you have really impacted my life, and I know you've impacted so many others. They may not say it every day, or they may not come. Some may say mean things to you. I have a friend that's actually, she is an intern learning about and working with kids with disabilities, and she shares some stories of like how hard it is, and not like obviously real, like she didn't say names or anything, but she's just like, I got called a really mean name today, like, so she's learning through these things. And I said, I go, not everyone can do that job, and only really special people can. And you are one of them. And I am just really grateful to have been blessed for you to be my teacher in high school and help me and be in my corner, because you don't go through life by yourself. You have a lot of people in your life that help you through life, and you're one of them. And I'm just really grateful for you. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And thank you so much for spending time with me after school, mind you. You have things to do. I'm sure your daughter's like, let's go, mom. Like, let's get home. So we have to do this again because I know we want to talk more about IEPs specifically. That is a huge topic of mine, advocacy, all these other things. So I know for a fact, unless you don't ever want to be on, I would love you to be on again someday. And we'll chat more about that and get really into the nitty gritty on that, because in my opinion, that's one of the most important things other than learning about yourself. And and advocating for yourself. But guess what? You can't do any of that unless you learn about yourself, know what your IEP says, and then you can advocate for yourself. So
very true.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gina, Mrs. Dahl, because it's weird to me still. Thank you again so much for taking time tonight. And I cannot wait for people to connect and know who you are and be like, gosh, Katie was so lucky to have her as a teacher. Yes, I was. Yes, I am. And all of the students that are coming up and working with you right now, they're so lucky. And again, thank you for your time.
Okay. Well, it's been nice chatting with you again, and I look forward to touching base with you and talking again.
Yes. Thank you so much. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I thought to stop you and tell you why geometry is what you don't like and the other one is what you do like, because I actually kind of know why.
Okay, let's talk about this, and I might actually add this in the end. So here we go. Why don't I like geometry and why do I like the other ones? Please tell me. This is good. This is good.
Okay, so part of my class that I teach is talking about looking at things in the spatial system, and basically in geometry, you have to be able to picture the things and see where they are, and you have to then apply a mathematical thing to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really focuses on your visual. Mm-hmm. You said you do better when you hear things.
Mm-hmm.
So you are an auditory learner.
I am, but I am visual too, though.
No, it's a totally different
visual. Okay. Yep. Okay. Because I'm thinking when I think visual, I'm like, I can see a building being built before it's done. Okay, that's different. Okay. Because I literally, for the life of me, was like, why don't I like geometry? It's shapes. I should be loving them. I design homes. I do all these things. It makes sense because it's the shapes and the geometry with the wording, like with the letters. Let's figure out how to put them all together. And I really loved, I have to say, this is weird. And I know they keep changing math these days. Why don't we just stop doing that and go back to like the normal math? But like, I remember I liked writing things out and physically seeing them in the line and then putting the numbers under it perfectly. And then I would be able to do the math that way. I love that kind of math. And obviously that's algebra, so that makes sense. So
that's right. Okay.
Well, look at that. I learned something new again today. I also learned that zinc is good for you if you don't feel very good. So I'm going to go buy some of that. And now that is why I did not like geometry. Wow. Okay. Thank you for enlightening me with that.
I have my Chromebook is saying that it's about ready to die and it's plugged in. So I'm trying.
Yeah. Nope. I can cut this out. No problem.
Okay. Oh, I found out what's going on. Apart from each other.
Oh no.
Helps to have it connected.
There's the blooper for the day.
There's the blooper for today. Yay.
Yes. Perfect.